I welcome you all to Creator Tech Connect series for the month of February. So this month, we would be discussing about JavaScript widgets in Zoho Creator. We'll be seeing an extensive outlook of widgets in this session. Now, here is the agenda for today's session. So we'll start off with introduction to widgets and go a bit further to understand about widgets capabilities. And I'll walk you through the steps of creating the first widget, and I'll also demonstrate live to how to create the first widget. Also, we'll discuss about the JS API, why and how it is used, and we'll go along with the demonstration for that as well. And before we wrap up, we'll give you a few key pointers to bear in mind when using widgets. So now to start off with, widgets are used to extend the capabilities of your Zoho Creators application that you are building in your Creator, with which you can actually go ahead and perform tasks that you cannot accomplish using the inbuilt features. Now, these widgets, once created and developed, will be available for you as an embeddable UI components, and it will be available for you in the drag and drop builder to go ahead and use it inside your Creator application. So again, with which you can go ahead and control your front-end design. You can also go ahead and incorporate them in the third-party applications. Now, just to understand a bit further about widgets capabilities. As I was saying, by using widgets or by creating widgets, you will be able to take complete control of your front-end UI or UX of the app that you are trying to build. Also, you can go ahead and add some additional features, and by doing so, we're obviously extending the application's interface to a next level. Now, you can also go ahead and perform tasks that are over and beyond the inbuilt features capabilities. Now, you can also go ahead and build and embed some interactive user interface components. For example, you can create a multi-step form or an image slider, etc. Now, you can also, let's say you have a widget and then you would like to go ahead and modify it furthermore. You would like to go ahead and furthermore do more customizations. In that case, you can also go ahead and make use of the JS capabilities that is available with the SDKs. Now, this slide will show you a graphical representation of where widgets has positioned itself in Creator. Now, you have Creator and then you also have widgets. Now, this widget is a combination of your HTML, CSS, and your JavaScript. Okay, now let's say, how does this widget communicate with Creator? So if it has to communicate with Creator, for example, if it has to send information or if it has to receive some information from onto Creator, it uses something called toolkit, and that toolkit is called JS SDK, which is nothing but JavaScript Software Development Kit. So now, in order to do so, in order to create your widget, in order to go ahead and use it inside your Creator, there's some process involved. Right? Now, the process involves 5 different steps, starting from downloading CLI tool. Now, CLI is a command line interface. Now, this slide will show you an overview of the steps involved, and then we'll see in detail about each of these steps in the coming slides. Now, the first thing is for us to download the CLI tool. Now, moving on to next, once we've done that, we create a new project, and then we go ahead and develop our widget. Once we are done with developing, we test and pack it. And the packed version of the widget, we will go ahead and upload to Creator. Now, the first step, as I was saying, is for us to go ahead and download this CLI tool. Now, what is a CLI tool? Now, CLI is nothing but a command line interface. Now, this is an interface that we are using in order to send commands to the software program that we are trying to interact with. Now, these commands will be sent as lines of text in order to interact with the program. Now, this interaction could include typing your commands into the interface as well as receiving responses from them. Now, using this CLI only, we'll be able to create and integrate a widget into Zoho Creator, right? So now that's exactly why this becomes the very first step. Now, in order for you to install this particular CLI, we use a command called Z, which is Zoho Extension Toolkit. Now, once we are done with installing this, we'll go ahead and use certain Z commands in order to initiate or run or validate and pack the specific project. For example, here, as you can see, we've used Z-init and Z-run, and we've tried initiating and run the project, as you can see. Now, the next step for us is to go ahead and create a project. right? So in order for us to create a project, we will use this command called zinit, which is z initiating. Now that will list that will give you the list of Zoho services, from which we'll choose Zoho Creator. And then we'll go ahead and create the project name. For example, here, as you can see, the project name is sample project. Now you can go ahead and give the name as per your wish, right? Now, once you've done that, simultaneously in your local machine, you will also see a folder like this will get generated. This is the complete structure of the folder that we were trying to create. Now here, as you can see, now these files will get automatically generated at the backend when we try to create this particular folder using the command prompt or terminal. Right now here, as you can see this file called widget.html. Now this is the file we'll be using to develop the widget. Now, so the next step becomes developing your widget. So in case if you'd like to go ahead and develop your widget, this is the file that we will be referring to. Now, this widget.html file contains the complete structure, design, and components of the widget itself. Now, in case if you'd like to go ahead and make more modifications, if you'd like to have more blocks of codes inside this particular widget, this is where you will come, and this particular bit will be doing using this JS API. Now we'll see all of this in detail in the coming demonstration and in the coming slides. Now, once we've done that, the next step is for us to go ahead and test and packed it. So ideally till now, we've downloaded the CLI tool, we've created a project, and we've also, in case if we want to develop, we've developed the widget as well. Now the next step, once we have done with the developing, we'll test and pack it using the following commands called zvalidate and zpack. So as you can see in the screenshot, you can go ahead and it will give you, as soon as you use these commands, you will receive some responses, as in validation passed successfully and extension and packed successfully. Right now, once this is done, once this step is completed, now is when you will see another folder inside your already created project called dist. Now this is the folder that will get created once you pack and test and pack. Now, the output of this will be in the zip format, and this is the file that is very much needed for us to go ahead and upload this particular widget into our Zoho Creator. So the next step will be uploading it into Creator. Now, when you go to Creator and when you try to upload the widget into Creator, this is a screenshot of where you will upload. You will give the name, choose the hosting, choose the file, and give an index file path. Now, this index file path is something, just going back to reiterate this. Now, that is something what you see here. Right now, this will be the index file path for you. So anything that you see here as widget.html will be the index file path for you. I'll show that to you also when we go ahead and do a live demonstration. Right now, once you give that and you hit the create button, and then you will go ahead and see the widgets inside your page component. Now that we've uploaded, now how do I see this particular widget that I uploaded inside my Zoho Creator? For that, I'll be using one of the important components of Creator, which is pages. So inside pages is where you will see this widgets that you have uploaded. Now here it lists all the widgets that we've already uploaded, just for an example. Right now, let's just go ahead and do a live demonstration and see. Let's create our first widget and let's understand how this is done. Now, the first step as well for us to start with the command line interface. Now, before that, let me show you. There's a prerequisite that we have in order to. Now, this is the documentation that I was referring to. Right now, here you will see there's a prerequisite in order to install CLI. So first, I'll go and hit this particular link in order to download the source code, Node.js source code. So once I've done that, now it takes me to this page. I'll go to the current or latest features. And as per the system that I'm using, I'll choose this and I'll have this package downloaded. Now I'm choosing Mac here. Just allow me a minute while it's getting downloaded. So now, as you can see, this has got downloaded and you can see the package here. So yes, so now I'll just go ahead and install this. So I'll just hit the continue button, and just like how we run this usually. So I'll just go ahead and install this. In case if it asked for your authentication, I'll just go ahead and give that. So it's just getting created at the backend. And once it's done, you will see a message like this package is installed, and it is showing me the version of Node and NPM. Now I'll say close, and I'm going to keep this. Now is when I'll go ahead and open my terminal. So once again, just in order to show you the next step is for us to go ahead and verify our installation. And once it's verified, we can go ahead and start creating our widget. So let me just show this to you. So the first thing I'm going to do once I'm done is I'll open my terminal, right? I hope you guys can still see my screen. So now the first thing is I'll go ahead and check the Node version. Yes, so it's giving me the version as 19. I'm just making sure, I'm just verifying the installation. I'll do the same for NPM as well. And I got the version clearly selected. Now I'll be using a following command called install Zoho extension in order to install the ZApps CLI node package. So I'm using this term called sudo in my Mac in order to run this as an admin. So in case if you're using Windows, you can skip the keyword called sudo. So this is the command that I've used in order to install the package. So it's getting installed. Let's just allow a couple of minutes. Yes. Right. So as you can see, it's clearly got installed. Now I'll be using another command called Z in order to just ensure that the installation is successful. Sorry. Yes. So as you can see, the installation is successful, and it's just showing me the commands that can be used here. For example, as you can see, the commands login, init, run, validate, pack, etc. These are some of the commands that we can use, and it's just showing me a gist of it, right? Now that I've done installing, now the next step for me is to, now that we've completed the completed downloading and installing the command line interface, now the next step for us to create the project. Now is when I'll go ahead and use this command called zinit. Once I've done that, this lists me this is showing me the list of Zoho services, which is from which I'll choose Zoho Creator, and then I'll give my project name here. So let's say I'm calling this project as first widget, and I'll hit the written button. So now it's getting initialized at the backend. Now, if we go into our Finder and into our local machine and see, we can see this particular folder will get created. So I'll go to home, and I'll show you where it has got created. So I'll go to users, and within my name, as you can see, the first widget file which we just created got created, and all of this applications have been generated automatically at the backend when we tried creating this project. Now here within the app, you can see this widget HTML. Now this is the HTML we'll be using to test and pack and develop the widget as well. Right, now that we've done it, now the next step is for us to go ahead and test and pack this. So let me go ahead and validate and pack this. Now before that, I'll also change directory. And I'll go ahead and validate and pack this. So for validation and packing, I'm using this commands called zet validate. As you can see, the validation rules is passed successfully, and then I'll go ahead and pack it. Now, the reason I'm packing it is for me to get the zip folder, which I can use to upload into my creator, right? So I'm going ahead with that, sudo zet pack. Now, as you can see, it's packed successfully, and first widget.zip folder got created in dist folder. Now, I'll go back to my folder, and I'll see one more folder created, which is called dist with this zip file. Now, this is exactly what I will use in order to upload into my creator. Now, let me go ahead and take you to my creator page. Now, here I have a very simple application just for the live demonstration purpose. Now, I'll go to edit this application. I'll go to settings. Now, this is where you will find a place to upload the widgets in Creator. So I'll go to settings. And here you can see within the developer tools an option called widgets. Once I hit that, this is where you will go ahead and upload the widget, which means upload the zip file that you have, right? So I'll hit the create button, and this screenshot is what we've been seeing in the presentation just a few minutes back. Now I'll give the name here as first widget. And it's a good practice to have similar names until you want to name it differently. Now here, there's a couple of things. So there's two types of hostings that we have here. One is internal and the other one is external hosting. Now, I'm using the one that I'm using currently. What we are doing currently is internal hosting, because here the widget has been developed and deployed in the server that is handled by Creator as well. So hence I'm using internal hosting. Now, in case when you have your widgets developed and deployed in your server, that is when you can go ahead and choose the external hosting option as well. So that option is also available. Now let's just get started with the internal hosting. Now here I will browse for the zip file that I already created. That we just built. So I'll go here. I'll choose my first widget. I'll go to the dist folder here, and I'll choose my, just give me a minute. This is the zip file that we are going to upload. So I'll say open. And this index file path is what I was referring to earlier as the widget.html file. Now, in case if you are having any other folder, let me just go back here. Now, the index file path will be the HTML file name that I have here. Now, in case if you have, if you have any other folders created in there, make sure that you are giving this as the correct index file path. So I'll just put a slash, and then I'll give the name here as create. And once we hit the create button, it will just get added to this particular list. Right? Now that I've uploaded the widget, now how will I see or access this particular widget inside my Creator page? Now for that, I'll be using the third main component of Creator, which is called pages. As we all know, there are four main components of Creator. One is forms, reports, pages, and workflows. Now I'll use the page component in order to bring in my widget inside Creator. So I'll hit the blank for now. I'll create a blank one. I'm going to again call it as first widget. And I'll create the page. Now this is my page builder. Now here I have a lot of page builder components, and one of which is widgets. Right now here by default, once you've uploaded the widget, all of the widgets will be seen here. Now in case if you have a few more widgets, it can be seen here as well. Now this is the widget we just uploaded. So now this becomes, once you upload into Creator, it becomes it becomes available for you as a drag and droppable element. So I just simply drag and drop it here, and then I'll just go ahead and configure it in case if I have to do any other changes to this. So I'll just complete the configuration and I'll hit the done button. So once I've done that, now this is exactly how my widget looks like. This is just a sample widget which we just want to show you, which we built using this Zoho extension toolkit. Now we know the complete process involved, the procedure, how to upload the widget into Creator. Now, what is the code behind this particular widget looks like? Now, that is something we need to be aware of. Now, let me take you back to the Visual Studio. Okay, now before doing that, there is also one more thing that I wanted to show you. I'm going to quickly run this particular. Okay, so in case if you want to run, you can go ahead and do that. Now, in this case, it is telling me the port is already in use. If it's not already in use, you will here have a HTTPS URL, which will ideally take you directly to the same widget which we were just seeing in a browser, which you can use it in a browser, right? Now, let me just take you back here, and I'll open the Visual Studio in order to show you the code behind this particular widget. So for that, I'm just going to open the entire app folder, and I'll hit the widget button. I hope you guys can still see my screen clearly. Right now, this is the coding that is behind this widget we just uploaded. Right now, it has the HTML component, and it just has a simple header as this. Right now, now that you know, okay, let me also go live and show this to you. So it opens in a HTTP separate browser. Now this URL is what you will ideally see when you run the command. If the port is not already in use in the terminal, this is what. So when you run it in this terminal, you will see a URL, something similar to this, right? Now, in case if you want to use this particular URL for the internal testing purpose, you can also go ahead and use this external hosting, and you can go ahead and paste this particular URL there in case if you'd like to do a quick internal testing purpose. Right, let me also show that to you. So I'll go here. Let's say I'm naming it as internal testing. So if not, okay. So here, if you choose external, it will just in the index file path, all you'll be required is to give this particular URL. Right, and that will again appear as a that will again appear as a widget in your page component, and then you can still go ahead and make use of that as well. Right, now that is just one point which I wanted to add. Now that we know we have this particular widget that we just uploaded. Now, what if we want to modify it, make it more customized, right? We want to modify it, or we want to we want to make the widget more interactive. That's the whole point of having widgets, right? So in that case, what I'll do is I will move into this next concept called JS API. Okay, so now in this way, using this JS API, I will go to modify this particular code in order to customize it further. And in that way, ideally, I'm extending the capability of my application more wider using this widgets. Now, taking you back to my presentation. So I'll just quickly give you a walkthrough before we go ahead with it. Right, and this is the JS API documentation. Now you have a couple of methods in order to go ahead and use this JS API, and using this you can go ahead and these APIs will help you perform some of the different tasks with the records of the application. So for example, you can go ahead and add record, update record, get all records, and get specified record using ID, delete and upload a file as well. Now for that, the first point is to go ahead and initialize the SDK using this particular method. Now, this is the first block of code that we'll be using inside our JS API whenever we want to write it inside our code. Okay. Now, in order to get the value from the parameters, you can go ahead and use this one. Similarly, you can go through this and understand further about each of this API and how it can be used and what needs to be done for each of these specific record API tasks. Right. If I click on the add record, it gives me the syntax, and then it also gives me an example of how it is defined. Now let's see all of this in the live demonstration, right? So now going back to that, going back to my presentation once again. Now I actually have a use case in order to discuss this particular JS API. So now once I've written a piece of code, once I developed my widget, now this is how my JS API will look like inside my JavaScript builder, right? Now let's take a use case for this. Okay, for example, now the use case that I have here is library management. Now, taking it from the librarian perspective, let's say they are using this application in order to maintain all the activities that revolves around the library management. Now, these activities could include planning the resources and organizing the entire library, staffing and controlling the resources, etc. Right? Now, for this, I have built an application which is called Zilker Library. Now, this is just an outlook or quick overview of how the application will look like. I'll just take you to the application in just a few minutes later. Now here, as you can see from the left side, I have different modules in order for me to go ahead and plan, staff, and organize my entire library, right? So let's say I want to have in this particular library, let's say I want to have a validation process just to verify if the user is human. Right? Just that validation part I've achieved using a widget. Okay. Now, this is something which is over and beyond the capability of the inbuilt features of Zoho Creator. So in this case, I've brought in the widgets capabilities in order to extend the functionality of this particular application that I built. And I'm doing that using this widget feature. Right? Now, to achieve the validation process, I have developed and packed a widget already, which I'll show it to you. Once I've uploaded the widget, now that will look like a form wizard in my user interface. Okay. Now, that particular widget, I'm going to link in one of the application, in one of the form that I have inside my application. Now, that form will be the contact us form. Now, let's say that is a contact us form, which has very basic details like first name, last name, and your email address. So when they click on the submit button, on click of the submit button, it takes them to the next page, which will be the validation page. And that I've achieved using the widgets, and that will look something like this. Now, this is my validation page. Now, I have two images, one of which is dog and the other one is cat. Now, as per this message, this validation message, when they submit the button, I will ideally have a record of the users who they've gone through this particular validation process. Now, this is the whole idea. So I've already packed the widget file and have it ready as a zip file. Let me show that to you. So now, as you can see, I have a file called validation here, and I've already packed it here. So I have a zip file inside my dist folder. So now this is what, as I was telling, we'll be using inside, using to upload into Creator. So I'll first go back to my Creator home, and I'll take you to the Zilker library page. So now this is the app that I've built, which I was just talking to you about a few minutes back. Right now, this is my Zilker library management application. As you can see, I can manage my resources from here. You can see all the books that is currently being used are here. And then I can manage my borrow requests. I can have control over the library readers. And then I will have the members. I'll do some admin works here. I can manage the users, and I can perform various settings. I can have control over the language of the books, the publishers, the authors, the resource categories, types, and everything. I can maintain all of them using this particular application, right? Now here, I have, as I was saying, I have this contact us report. So once they are done with the validation process, I want the validated users to be seen in this report. Now, this I'm going to achieve. The form wizard is something I've developed using this widget. And using this JS API, I'm going to be linking that particular widget into this form, to this report. Now, let's see how we've done it. Now, before that, first, let's go ahead and upload the widget and see how the wizard form looks like. And then I'll take you through the, and then we'll go ahead and code it. Okay, so first I'll go ahead and edit this application. And I'll go to settings. Let's go ahead and upload this widget that we already have. I'm going to call this as validation. I'll leave it as internal hosting, and I'll choose the zip file from here. Okay. Now I'll give the index file path name as widget.html, and I'll hit the create button. Now I've created my widget, and now I'm going to be creating a page in order to access this particular widget. So I'll hit the plus button, go to page. I'm going to call this as validation, and I'll create the page. And I'll go to my widget component where I can see my validation widget that I just uploaded. I'll drag and drop it here, do some configurations if required, and I'll say done. I'll access this application from here. Now, this is how my form will look like, which I first linked with the form, and then it takes me to the form wizard in order to validate the form. So let's say the first thing I'm doing is giving a name here. Let's say I'm giving a name as, right? I'm hitting the submit button. So once I've done that, it takes me to the validation page. This is what, as I was telling, we've achieved using this widget. Now, as per the validation message, I'm going and doing select dog and press the submit button. Now, in case if I don't do it, right? In case if some person doesn't want to do it, and if they hit the this one, and if they go for submit button, you see a message called validation failed, right? So this is the whole idea. Now, let's say I'm doing it. I'm choosing this, and I'm hitting the submit button. Now, if I go to my contact us report, you can see this has got added into my report. Now, this is something I've achieved by writing a piece of code into my using my JS API. Now, let me take you back to my coding. I'll just close this, and let's go ahead and open this in the Visual Studio in order to understand and analyze the code. I hope this screen is still visible for you. So now this is the code behind the widget which we just saw and developed here, right? The first and the second form, like a form wizard, right? Now, starting here, as you can see from my code, I'm starting now. This code is a combination of your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Right now, I'm starting off with HTML, where you can see I've referenced the Google APIs, and I've started off with styling using HTML. I've worked on the placeholders, the style, as well as the main divisions, the border, the checkboxes style, and the validate form style, and the button style, using this background, padding, width, border, etc., and all that. And as you can see, there are two divisions, which is nothing but the two main forms that we were just discussing, that we were just seeing. So one of the form is this one. First name, last name, and email. And the next form is the validate form, which is the next page with the images, right? Now, that is exactly what I've defined here using HTML. As you can see, I've defined the first name, last name, email. And on click of the button, it ideally goes to the check validate function, which is check validate function. And on the mouse down, it goes to FCS out. Now, this check validate function is something which you can see here. Right now, here in this function, ideally, I've used this document word in order to go back to refer to the HTML snippet which is above, and using this get element by ID, I'm iterating through the records, and I'm first checking the data division, which is the first division here, and I'm making that none. That's the first part. I'm making that none. And the second one is to using the same document.getElement by ID. When it's none, I'm making it to go ahead and validate the form, and I'm displaying it in blocks. As you can see, there'll be two blocks of images, one with dog and cat. Right now, this is on click of the button. Now, on the mouse down, it goes to the other function which is called FCS out. So which comes here, which you can see here. Again, using document, I've just referenced to the HTML and iterating through the records, which is the button ID, and once it's selected. Right now, this is something I've defined and written using this HTML. Right now, this is my first division. Now, in the second division, which is called validate form, I have two blocks. Here is where I've defined the images, which is the cat and dog images. Right, cat and dog images. As you can see, I've given the URL as well. Now, okay. Now again here, on click of a button, it refers to another function called my function, and then on mouse down, it refers to the FCS out, which we've already discussed. Now, this my function is something. On the validation page, what should happen is something I've defined here. Now, when they go to my function, so now here I've used a couple of if conditions. So starting off with document.getElement ID and go to, I'm referring to the button in the HTML above. And when it is selected, and I'm using this jQuery, and when the input or the box is checked, it ideally goes to show me a value. And if not, if it is selected as a cat, it will give an alert message saying validation failed. Now, if this doesn't happen, then the form reloads it to itself, right? It will still be in the same page itself. Now here in between, I need to do something which will ideally make it more customizable between the widget as well as the creator. Now, that is something I'm going to link this particular widget to my form or the report that I was just showing. Now, this is something I'm going to achieve using this JS API. Right now, the documentation would have been already shared by my fellow trainers in the chat box. Now, I'm just going back to my code, and I'm just going to quickly, now I'll start writing out the function saying add data. Here I'm adding this particular data. And now the first step is for me to go back to my API documentation. Okay, I'll show the documentation to you as well. Right now, this is my documentation. Now I'll be, in order for me to first step is to initialize the SDK, right? So for that, I'll be using this block of code. So let me just take it from here. And I'll go ahead and put it here. Now I'm initiating this, and then the function, I'm calling this particular function data, and then my code goes here. Now here, what I'm trying to do is add a record to a specific, report, right? Now for that, if I go back to my API documentation, you will see the syntax of this particular add record. So I'm just gonna quickly take that from here. And I'm going to put it the place where it goes, where the code goes, right? Now, this is exactly what we should do in order to link the form with my widget. Now here I will link my app name, my form name, and I'll also define the data that needs to be linked, which will ideally be the first name, last name, and the email. Now let's go ahead and do this first. Now, of this app name and form name are something which is available in Creator. Now these are the form link name and the app link name that we will be using at the backend. So now I'm going back to my Creator in order to refer that. Now, as you can see, the form link name, I can take it from the URL. If you check the URL, you will see the form name. Now this is the form link name. Now I'm saying the form link name. I'm just entering it within the string. Now similarly, I have the app link name here as well as library management. Now I'm taking that and pasting that here within the string again. Now the next step for me to do is to define my data, right? So for that, let's see. I'm saying data, :separate. And the first block that I would do is the name and the email. Now here I call the name as a block because I will be giving for the first name separately and last name separately. The reason I'm keeping it as first name and last name is because in Zoho Creator, the name field is a composite field. So I'm empathizing that inside my piece of code that I'm trying to write. So the first thing that I will be doing is name, :separate, open my flower brackets, and then go ahead and now again here, whenever I'm writing a piece of code, I will always refer back to the field link names, form link names, and the app link names. Now again, for the first name, I'm referring on the first name field, what or how should the input be. So that's exactly what I'm defining. So for that, I'm giving the link name of the field from here. Okay, which you can take from the within the form builder. You will see the link name for each of the field to the right side of the form properties. Now for the first name, it will be first_name document dot. I'm using this word document in order to refer to the HTML, and I'm using this get element by ID because I'm iterating through the records, and I'm choosing this particular first name and giving a value, right? So I'm saying get element by ID, and I'll go back to my division and I'll choose the ID because in the ID, whatever value that I've given, that is exactly what I'm going to be using here. So just copying that from there and choose that, and then give me a value is what I'm saying. Now the next step, I'll just do the same thing for the last name as well. Document dot get element by ID, and I'll go back to refer for the last name. Dot value. Now now that we're done with the first name and last name, let's move to the next component or next field, which will be my email field. So this again will be the link name, document dot get element by ID, and I'm referring back to the ID in the HTML division. and bring me the value. Now, just by achieving writing this particular code is what I was able to achieve, bringing that particular record into my report. Right now that I've done configuring this, now the next step is for me to go ahead and call this record API. So now this is the syntax for that, as you can see. Now let me show that to you from the documentation with an example. Right now, this is the syntax, right? And in case if you want to give a console message when it hits successfully or record added successfully, you can go ahead and do that as well. Now here, I'm just leaving it as a callback block because I don't want anything else to happen apart from just showing it, right? So I'm adding this record and I'm referring to the config and then calling this function response, right? Now, this is the piece of code that goes behind my validation form page. So let me submit another record and show you at zilka.com, and I hit the submit button. Now this is the piece of code that has gone behind this particular form wizard or the widget that I just built in order to link this particular user to become as a record in my contact us report. So now I'll go ahead and hit this and the submit button, and now I go to contact us and I will see the record clearly added here. Right now, these are some of the some of the components, or by using this particular JS API, you can go ahead and extend your widgets capability. You can make it more customizable. This is one piece of code that we've just written. Now you can go ahead and use your expertise in order to go ahead and develop even more using this particular widget capability that is available inside Zoho Creator. Now, before this ideally brings us to the pre-end of the session. Now, before that, I'd also like to share a few key pointers to keep in mind when you're using or trying to use widgets inside Creator, right? So let me just go to that. So now, it's a very important point to keep in mind that widgets are supported in the premium and the ultimate plans. So it'd be good for you to first check what plan you're on and then go about having widgets. And then you can create up to 50 widgets in your Zoho account. Now, widgets are allowed access only to the creator service, and subsequently all of the URLs are blocked. Right, and for the internal hosting, in case if you're trying to do the internal hosting, that is, these are the points to bear in mind with regards to the file size, the number of files, and the maximum size of the file inside the zip file. So the maximum size of the widget zip file will be 10 MB, must not exceed 10 MB. And the number of files inside the zip file must not exceed 255. And the maximum size of file inside your zip file must not exceed 5 MB. Right. Now, the next one, there's some naming conventions as well. So if you take for the widget zip file, name must not exceed 100 characters, but it's okay if it's alphanumeric. That is acceptable. And the file name inside your zip file must not exceed 50 characters. Again, it can be alphanumeric, and the folder name inside the widget zip file can contain alphanumeric as well. Now, these are some of the file types supported. Example, text, XML, JPEG, PNG, GIF, HTML, CSS, JS, of course, and then JSON, MP3, and MP4, WebM, etc. These are some of the supported file types that can be included. And there's just a couple more points that I wanted to say. If you'd like to play around with some of the widgets, until you get the hang of it, if you'd like to play around, we also have a separate documentation for sample widget. Right now, this is the documentation. Now, from here, you can go ahead and download the zip file. Here, the widget will be available we've already packed it exclusively and we've put it here. So you can just directly go ahead and download the zip file, and then you can directly go and upload it into your Zoho Creator using the widgets, and then bring it inside your page component and just see how it works and to get the hang of it. The step-by-step process of how you can do this is also clearly given here, right? Now, the widget that we have, the sample widget, will look something like this, with which again you can go ahead and make some modifications using the, using this add records or the delete records, or as you can see in the widgets, you can see there'll be a lot of options for you to do: update record, get all records, etc. So you can go ahead and do this do all of this from the widgets UI perspective. So you can try this as well, right? As I was mentioning in my key pointers, widgets are allowed access to creator service. So subsequently, all other URLs are blocked. So ideally, if you're trying to use any other client library within the widget, the whitelistings of URLs should be done. Now, that is a key point to keep in mind as well, right? So now with this, we've actually come to the end of this session. Now we also, and I believe that you've got an idea of widgets and what are the capabilities of it as well. In case if you have any further questions, you can write to us. Now, before that, we also have some of the upcoming sessions planned for next month. So for the Tech Connect, it will happen on the 8th of March, 11 a.m. Next month. And we also have another series called Learning Table series. If you've already attended it last week, we also have a series planned next month as well, which will be on the 1st of March. So now this brings us to the end of this session. Now, in case even after the session, if you have any other questions or if you'd like to know anything about the widgets or the training at all, you can write to us at training@zohocreator.com.